This is a snippet from Chapter 1 of Dark Psychology Defense Toolkit. From 1984 to Whiplash and the urgency of noncompliance. Why do most people follow demands when they know they are wrong? Why do people betray their own perception of reality, their own values, their own common sense so easily? And what does this betrayal cost them? The answers lie not just in individual weakness, but in the subtle yet powerful mechanisms of what some refer to as dark psychology. Techniques that exploit human vulnerabilities to induce conformity and control. These aren't malicious in every instance, but their effects can be profoundly damaging to individual autonomy. Concepts like the power of authority bias, where individuals defer to perceived experts, the influence of social proof, where we look to others for cues on how to behave, and the insidious creep of gradualism, where small compliances pave the way for larger ones, all play a role in this widespread phenomenon. The insidious truth is that consistently complying with unreasonable or ridiculous demands is a direct assault on our self-esteem. It chips away at our sense of worth, erodes our personal boundaries, and can leave us feeling powerless and diminished. Each time we say yes, when every fiber of our being screams no, we teach ourselves that our judgment doesn't matter, our boundaries are negotiable, and our authentic self is expendable. This isn't just personal psychology, it's a pattern that plays out across history, in relationships, workplaces, and entire societies. Cinema has captured this phenomenon with brutal clarity, none more famously than George Orwell's chilling dystopia, 1984. 1984, the blueprint for breaking souls. The film adaptations of 1984 don't just show us a dystopian future, they provide a masterclass in how systematic compliance destroys the human spirit. Winston Smith's harrowing journey from tentative rebellion to utter soul-crushing submission isn't just fiction. It's a blueprint that plays out in countless real-world scenarios, from abusive relationships to authoritarian regimes to that global madness we're still not allowed to question. In Oceania, the party's methods are comprehensive and relentlessly designed to dismantle the individual. Omnipresent surveillance and fear. Those telescreens watching every move create an environment where authentic self-expression becomes impossible. Sound familiar? When people know they're being watched by cameras, by algorithms, by the mob waiting to cancel anyone who steps out of line. When they live under this constant surveillance, people learn to self-censor, to perform compliance even when alone. Winston's forced suppression of his true feelings becomes our forced suppression of obvious truths. Emotional starvation and isolation. The party systematically destroys genuine human connection. Love becomes dangerous, friendship suspect, family loyalty redirected toward the state. When people are isolated from authentic relationships, they become desperate for approval from any source, even the very system oppressing them. Reality manipulation and doublethink. Perhaps the most devastating weapon in the party's arsenal, forcing people to accept contradictory truths simultaneously. When you're required to believe that 2 + 2 is equal to 5, that war is peace, that freedom is slavery, you learn to distrust your own mind. Your capacity for independent thought atrophies. You become dependent on external authorities to tell you what's real. Public rituals of compliance. The 2 minutes hate forces citizens to perform emotions they don't feel, to participate in collective madness. These public displays don't just enforce conformity, they make people complicit in their own oppression. Once you've participated in the lie, you're invested in maintaining it. The final break. Room 101 represents the ultimate destruction of individual will. But by the time Winston reaches this point, he's already been systematically weakened by months of smaller compliances. The torture is just the final blow to a spirit already broken by 1,000 tiny surrenders. The many faces of compliance-induced destruction. While 1984 shows us the grand societal scale of this phenomenon, other films reveal how the same psychological dynamics play out in more intimate settings that might feel uncomfortably familiar. The Everyday Tyrants. Whiplash, 2014, brilliantly captures how this destruction can masquerade as excellence. Fletcher doesn't just demand perfection, he systematically destroys Andrew's sense of self-worth, then positions himself as the sole source of validation. Andrew sacrifices relationships, health, and sanity chasing approval from someone who fundamentally despises him. The film's genius lies in how it makes us question whether this abuse might be worth it for greatness. The same rationalization people use for staying in toxic jobs, relationships, or ideological movements. Compliance, 2012, shows how quickly ordinary people can be manipulated into betraying their own moral compass. Based on real events, it demonstrates that you don't need a totalitarian state to break someone's will, just the right psychological pressure applied by someone claiming authority. The manager who strip searches an innocent employee, the boyfriend who assaults her on command, they're not monsters. They're people who chose compliance over conscience. If you enjoyed this snippet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Get the book, details in description. Leave a comment, share your thoughts.